Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Leese.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi.
And today
And
we have Canadian impresario, coach, friend slash kicker in the ass of Brian Orser, Doug Haw. Doug Haw, welcome to the skating lesson.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And remember now, I am the Can-Am coach because I'm teaching in Coral Springs, Florida now. And I have dual citizenship.
Yes. Well, I like that we saw all of Sandra's paintings on, and you're outdoing her because you have two Tyler Cranston originals behind you.
Very much originals that he did for me back in the early 90s. They're called gouaches, by the way.
What are they?
Well, this is from, the one directly behind me is from the Almost Norbert Schramm collection.
Okay.
And, who never picked it up. And then the one over there is La Grand Jeté, Tyler called it. He said, from one who can only think about it.
Now, have you ever seen my favorite Tyler Cranston TV specials from the 80s, The Magic Planet, and...
Yes. A lot of my good friends were in those shows.
And then they went to rehab shortly after.
It's a different time. Yeah.
We're happy that they're still with us after that performance. There's
right.
Two of my favorites. Well, Doug, you have worked with so many top skaters. You actually worked with Jenny and Chris Mabey alongside Richard Callahan for years. So I want to get all of your technical knowledge, because one of the things I was really impressed with is that I went to a seminar and I thought that you were really good at verbalizing with the skaters what they need to do with their damn free leg on combinations with toe jumps. So I thought that you would be perfect to explain what is going on with these men and these quads and all of the falling that was taking place. So,
well, it'll be, I'd like to do that. Where would you like me to start?
Let's start with Nathan Chen. This is one of the big, we're Americans, so we have to start there. You're American now, it's all about Nathan, okay?
Okay. All right. Get my glasses on here.
Okay.
Here we go.
Nathan Chen, first question I want to ask, the changing of the jump content. As a coach, does it make you cringe?
It does make me cringe. I think that you have to build muscle memory, and in order to be successful, you have to do the same thing the same time. And I think you need like 30 run-throughs of doing the same elements in the same order at the same time during the program in order to be successful.
Well, it's one of those things that like Frank Carroll always used to say to like those skaters in those moments, that he'd be like, trust your training.
Right.
It's like, well, how can you trust your training if, you know what I mean? Like,
it keeps getting changed all the time.
Yeah. And now
you can't have all that much doubt when you're skating, like which jump, oh yeah, it's the quad out. No, it's the quad flip.
Right.
And then, it throws off your pattern, it throws off your timing and rhythm. Because to me, jumps depend on three things: the pattern, the timing, and your positions. All jumps come from those three components, and each jump has its own. So you have to rehearse that many times in order to get it correct.
And from an artsy-fartsy standpoint, I think that, it speaks to the integrity of your overall program if you're changing those patterns all the time like that, right?
Absolutely.
The short had such potential, and I thought was really the most successful version of it happened at Nationals. And of course that was a different jump content, and I had hoped that would have remained the same here, because I thought it really the choreography was really able to shine there. And of course, with all of this, we lost the program. Even just as a totally vain person, even when the costumes keep changing. Yeah. How do you just switch? Vera Wang is brilliant, and she knows skating and she knows design. Do you think she was just like, here's a generic black outfit, feel free to wear it whenever you want, wherever you want, Well,
the one at Nationals had the big zipper in the back, remember? Mm-hmm. So it was like the real techie outfit. And then this one with the white collar seemed to be very reminiscent of Christopher Bowman from the 90s.
Can we be honest? Vera is great, but I don't think that she's proven herself in men's costuming. I feel like there's a thing to put all men in black to not look gay, to look, very, I guess, masculine is what they're trying to go for. But I think that it's the Evan Lysacek school of skating, although he had those horrible embellishments on with the snakes. But and the feathers, but I think it washed him out. I actually think that making Nathan all black when the music has some yellows in there and some tans, and like there's more to that music than just black. And I think that it actually kind of washed out what Nathan does so well in that program.
But look, he's got an amazing body. He's completely sinewy and muscular. So why not show it off? Like, his body is perfect for skating. And he had moments of wonderful line with a stretched free leg and a pointed toe. So to me, black on white, what better to show the black outfit on the white ice?
Yeah, I think it's just when you wear the same thing every time, it's a little disjointed for me.
Well, I thought, people made their comments about the stripes. This is so ridiculous. We have you here as for technical information. I'm talking about the costume.
It matters.
It does matter because the version of it at Nationals, I thought, was the most successful because the white stripes were also showing us and accentuating his arm movements and drew my eye to it, which is why the footwork sequence, in my opinion, was so much more effective.
And the spread eagles, that showed, his wingspan, right, and how much ice he could cover. And just like Sandra Bezic was saying in her blog about pair skating, like that IJS is not exactly the best for pair lifts and some death bars because they were meant to be sweeping and beautiful and show line and not be all curled up. So I think that, the black outfit on Nathan accentuated beautiful lines.
Well, I think I want to ask you about the pressure, because there's a lot of talk. Is it just too much pressure for Nathan? Now, I have to say, because we know that you work with Brian Orser, I think it's a little bit of fake news because, of course, he coaches Yuzuru Hanyu. He coached Yuna Kim. Obviously, this is something that should have been addressed in the coaching. And there's also been talk that it was not, in fact, Roth who is in favor of changing the jumps, but that Nathan and his mom are the ones. But to me, that still points to, is that a coaching issue on Roth's point if he's not taking a firmer stance and putting his foot down? Is he afraid of losing a top student? So what's your take on who's driving the ship? Is it Roth? Is it, Nathan and the mom? What's going on?
Well, I don't know that situation, but I just know that to be completely successful, and from Brian Orser, I know that he takes control over that. And I know that, it's very important that, you communicate with all the people. I know he's like, if it's not Yuzu directly, it's with his agent. So to me, and the same with Javi, it's like there's a lot of communication lines open. So yes, the parents' input is appreciated. However, I believe the final decision has been Brian's and Tracy's.
Yeah, interesting. I think with Nathan, what do you expect? I guess Jonathan, is your money on? Because Doug, I think you're in the PSA now, so you have to step back, so you can't comment here. Jonathan, do you think that Mrs. Chen will call Brian Orser this week, next week, or after the World Championships?
Well, okay, let's talk about this whole coaching situation because, like you say, I think a lot of, Nathan scooting away from Roth and the kiss and cry, these sorts of things. Like there was a message being sent that we were going to put all of this on Roth, that it was his fault. And I don't know how, in a way, maybe because I have some stuff going on, but like in a way my heart broke for Roth because I know how much, Roth is cold a little bit with Adam. He's cold with Ashley. He's cold with Mariah Bell, but he cared so much for Nathan like this whole time. And so to see that kind of explode and what should have been a culmination of their relationship was it was a little bit heartbreaking for me. And I don't know, Doug, if in your experience, like in music, this happens sometimes where inevitably there's that one student you care too much about, or that one student that you maybe let him and his mom sort of steer you away from your planned content that you were hoping to.
Well, I think that, Frank Carroll taught me when I was probably a very younger coach, and I'm trying to think, at least 25 years ago, he said, when you get a really good pupil, you have to fight tooth and nail, were his exact words, to keep the pupil. And I think that, Marina Zueva almost got Nathan a year ago summer away from him. And I think he had to fight tooth and nail to get him back. So, to me, it's like you got to pick your battles if you want to win the war.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So maybe he let Nathan's mother call the shots on the jump order so that he could still keep him.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in your assessment of this, in order for Nathan to move forward, given that this clearly is probably not a technical issue, right? It's probably a consistency of the content issue. So does a coaching change alleviate that?
Well, it depends if the other coach is stronger than the parent.
Yeah.
To me, it comes down to trust. If the parent trusts the coach explicitly, they'll listen. If the parent still thinks that they can control a coach, then obviously it won't.
I mean,
and that kind of, if you think about it, there's a lot of American skaters that end up what we call in coaching coach hopping, and I think it happens more in America than it does anywhere else. Yeah. And I would say because in America the parents like more control.
Okay.
Well, it's funny, when we interviewed David Wilson, he said, what did he say? I can't do David's voice well, but he was like, the mom is always the coach, when he was talking about some of the Asian skaters. And he was like, Yuna, she has a coach, but the mom is the coach. And I think it's a little bit true in some situations. I think with this, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, the USFS has so much invested in Raf. Raf, if he moves to Irvine, the USFS was putting offices there. That's obviously a lot invested in this situation, but it'll be interesting to see what happens, because to me, this is two major events that have come undone at the last moment for Nathan. Last year's World Championships, this year, no medal either time, a complete, obviously devastating performance in the team event. And I think that you only get so many chances when all the pressure is on you to bounce back and be a victor psychologically before you become Sasha Cohen.
At the same time, the best lessons are learned from failure. So maybe they're going to learn a good lesson and they'll be successful in the future.
Well, let's talk about being successful. Yuzuru Hanyu, you were, I think, probably the quietest you have ever been, maybe in your life, about his injury, pleading the fifth. When did Yuzuru really start jumping? Talk about the preparation, the management going into here.
Well, to be honest, Brian was not allowed to tell anybody. Mm-hmm. So I only ever heard little wee snippets when he would kind of let a little bit of the cat out of the bag. Mm-hmm. And I would say he probably has only jumped 3 weeks, really. 3 weeks. But I think that what was smart about Brian is he kept him busy off the ice. He was doing a lot of physical training off the ice and mental training. So, and he has his whole team, I don't know how many people were still with him, from like the hypnotist to his trainer. I don't know, because again, I tried not to be snooty. So because I have to respect my space and my place with our friendship. And I would have to say probably only 3 weeks.
So then to you, how much is that just the muscle memory? Is that Yuzu's mental strength? What is this? I mean, what was the key?
I'd say it's his complete mental strength. Mm-hmm. It's mind over matter. And it's, to me, I thought of Elvis Stoico with his groin injury in 98. And I thought, you know what, this boy, this Hanyu boy is stronger than even Elvis. Mm-hmm. Because it was just so much so much strength involved here. Mm-hmm. However, he was completely positive, always saying, I'm going to win without doing a quad lats. I'm going to win. I'm still going to win. And, he was right.
Yeah.
He knew what he needed to do to win, and he did it. And I swear to God, it was because he has the mental strength.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because a lot of times when athletes have this serious of an injury, we don't have footage of that injury happening, right? This is one of those rare cases we have the video of him trying and falling on that Lutz, right? And is that really the sole reason for that serious of an injury? Because I'll tell you, as an outsider, as someone who hasn't done a quad lutz in years, I can't really remember how that would feel. When he landed, I'm sure, to my eye, I was like, oh gosh, what a bad fall. But I would not have guessed that landing that way could have had that big of an impact for so long.
But maybe it was other injuries like that were leading up to that might have aggravated it, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay.
So it could have been maybe all the pounding, because I know he was really pushing himself hard. He really, really wanted to make sure he won the Olympics. He knew about Nathan Chen. He wanted to beat him.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Nathan was a bigger motivator even than Javi for Hanyu with the technical, with the quads and everything like that going into the season?
Again, my own opinion, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Well, I was just going to say, nowadays, doesn't matter what level it is, all the kids now are I find, very point focused, and they go over all the score sheets of all their competitors. Doesn't matter if it's like the Florida Open or whatever. They all know the points of all their competitors, and now I can tell you from what's changed the most in coaching for me in the last 5 years is how many points? What would you give me GOE? How many points? How many points when you're finished a run through? Did I get all positives? Like they're fixated on that, but I think that it's made skating a lot better. And I think that, especially when I think of the two Canadian girls, Gabby Daleman and Caitlin Osmond, that they grew up in this system. They never did a school figure, and they, since the beginning, have been programmed on points. So I think, because Canadian girls, let's face it, they did a complete turnaround. Like Canadian ladies, to have two ladies, that never happened in the podium, and I swear to God, it's because of points. And I think what doesn't matter if it's Yuzu Hanyu or Nathan Chen, it's all about points. It's at all levels.
Well, what do you think? What is the key to Hanyu's jumps? You talked about his mental strength, but what physically is he doing in the air that makes him so better? He seems to look a little bit prettier in the air than Nathan to me. I don't really particularly think Nathan's arms are aesthetically pleasing. They may be functional when he's in the air, but Hanyu's jumps, his quads, his triple axels are just so stunningly beautiful when he does them. So what is the key that you see when you watch him?
It's that it factor. It's called talent. You can't describe it. He is a gift to figure skating. Like his spring, where does it come from? It's like Patrick Chen skating. He's obviously the finest skater on the planet. Where does that natural flow and blade come from? It's innate, And in my opinion, like Yuzu, he once he goes in the air, it's his happy place. Mm-hmm. Nathan, to me, is completely technically brilliant. All his jump. I love the seatbelt position. I believe biomechanically it's correct, and I also know from now changing my technique with my kids jumping that the seatbelt position works because the right arm comes across the body and it gets you initiated rotation instead of the old hold the baby kitty and pull your shoulder blades up to your ears like you're wearing earrings.
Right.
And so your whole center of gravity, your whole stability is off.
How about the old Frank position where it would be the right arm under the right arm with the left over and pull it down?
I know, but when you're in the air, your axis runs through the center of your body. Okay, so you've got to think of, at the end of the day, physics. So this makes your axis even in the air. If you're going to pull over here, you're spinning around your right side. Mm-hmm. So the axis is, so to me, once you get in the air, your axis is in the center of your body. Mm-hmm. So this position will make it evenly rotated. Otherwise, this could be gyrating like a plucked guitar string.
Okay.
You definitely finish over on your right side because you want to, check out. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, checking out is really slowing down your rotation. So your body's turning, counterclockwise, and then you have to try to reverse it to slow it down. Mm-hmm. So that when you hit the ice, then you can open up and increase your stability and increase it's called a moment of inertia. You make a larger moment of inertia, and then that's how you and then you unwind your free leg on an arc with your body. That's how you get on a running back outside edge.
So now, do you think that Hanyu will continue? 22, 23 years old? I mean, he's still young enough to keep going another 4 years, another 8 years if he wanted to.
He could, but how much more famous can you get? Like 66 years since Dick Button. I think that 2 Olympic titles, that's pretty big. Like, why would he want to train anymore? Like, I just don't understand that. I don't. And just to have all the challenges to keep him healthy, even in this last quadrennial, like all the issues the kids have to deal with. And then you got to look at the 2 jumping beans with Vincent and Nathan. I mean, good Lord, like, why would you want to compete with that when that's only going to get better? And Nathan's going to be the complete package soon with the artistry and the jumps. So I would think he already won the free skate, and let's face it, if he had done even 1 or 2 jumps in the long, he would have been on the podium. I mean, pardon me, 1 or 2 jumps in the short, he would have been on the podium. Right. However,
well, let's talk about the competition within Japan, because it's getting much fiercer, even between Hanyu and Shoma Uno. So what do you make of his jumps? He has it's a very willful appearance when he's skating, especially the flip. The technique does not look textbook by any means, especially with his pick and his upper body on the takeoff. So what do you make of his technique? I mean, do you like it? Do you...
I missed that. Are we talking Vincent?
No, we're talking Shoma Uno.
Oh, Shomo. Well, he, to me, has the amazing knees, right? So again, he's always lower down. So, when you want to think in basic terms, his legs, and so he uses the metatarsals, the ankle, the knee, the hip. He can coil down like a spring pressed down. So when he hits the toe, either on an edge jump or when he's tapping, he springs up like a rocket, like completely vertical. And that's because he's got the beautiful knees. And look at how he saves those jumps. Even his triple axel in the end of the program. I mean, his body was outside of the circle completely, but he knew how to work that edge and bend so he could save everything.
So in general, for me, Shoma just happens to be my sentimental favorite. I just love the way he moves on the ice, and I find his programs, especially his short, to just be so stunning. But of course, we do know he practically ends these jumps in like an illusion spin every time. What is it in the check or that he's not checking the jump or something on the landing that's creating that?
No, to me, it's the takeoff that needs to be addressed, because you land how you take off. So his edges come around a little. So if he's picking here, his edges the arc is smaller. So the smaller the arc, it produces rotation. So to me, I would try to flatten out a little more of his entries so that he can land again on a larger arc. Okay. So to me, when you're doing that little kind of, coaches like to say a spinny takeoff, but we're getting awfully nitpicky here when we're talking about the Olympic and world silver medalist. I mean,
he's amazing. He's amazing, but just sometimes you see those saves you're saying. He's so amazing because he saves them. I was just curious from a technical standpoint, even obviously on a slightly different level, when Courtney Hicks would always have those kind of a similar issue coming out of certain jumps. And so I was just curious to get your take on it. Okay.
All right, to me, it's totally the takeoff.
Well, I think it's interesting with Shoma.
It's like, to me, that's a coach issue. You want to correct the cause, not the symptom. And the symptom is the curly landing, but it's the takeoff that you need to address.
Yeah, It's interesting because I talked to Alex Arashev, and he was talking about him being bow-legged and stuff, and I wasn't really sure that, what that was it. I think
it creates, when you're bow-legged like that, it creates a vacuum more effect, like Midori Ito. Yeah. To me, in the end of the day, your knees are apart in the air, and your free leg is turned slightly into the direction of rotation. That's why you see everybody's feet in a triangle. The baby toes are kissing, I tell the kids, and your heels are apart.
Right.
So when your free leg, as I say, is stuck out to the side. I say your free leg was out in orbit, So that's why you work the backspin and work the backspin with your toes together.
Okay.
Oops. That was my mother.
Oh, she's not important.
No, not the phone rang.
Well, I want to ask, because with Shoma, the reason I brought that up is because we've seen him get second about 3 times this season when he probably had all of the talent and all the ability to be first, and it was this close. I mean, I think you look at, especially at Four Continents, at the Grand Prix final, I mean, those were definitely 2 titles he easily could have won. So
I actually thought, by the look of his body language, that he was expecting to win.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting him to win. I really was.
Jonathan.
I was expecting him to win, and I expected Nathan to kind of have exactly what happened to him happen.
I believed in Brian Orser. I'm just telling you. And Tracy. I love that Tracy Wilson. She's such a silent, deadly force. She's coaching, she's commentating on TV, but she's so skilled at it, and she's so Canadian that no one even raises an eyebrow about it. I mean, that's amazing.
And she's positive.
Yes.
The glass is always half full with Tracy, and if it looks like if it looks like it's emptying, she would pour the water into a smaller glass.
Yes. Oh. She is a deadly person. She is smart as hell. I like her. So let's talk about Javi, because I really think it's been bugging me all season, but I think he was the third quad jump, the repeated quad in his free skate, doing the Salchow instead of the toe. The toe is what he does as the combo in the short. It's been such a strong jump all season. Why the heck did we not change this? He has the swingiest Salchow when he gets under pressure.
Well, Brian says he's been landing it in his run-throughs and doing clean run-throughs, so how do you fight with that?
You look at the competition percentages.
I understand that, but Brian would attest to something else. And the last thing I'm going to do is get in a battle with my bestie over the jump technique or order when it's the Olympic season and he's ready to jump off a cliff.
That's where you and I differ. I would just go in, pass my vodka and just be like, all right. So...
well, I thought, though, Javi's program was the best storytelling program of the event. Mm-hmm. It was charming. It was playful. The footwork, to me, was the best sequence of the whole event. Because he had it all. He had, animation, yet he had all the technique. He had, obviously got a level 4, which, not everybody got. Like, poor old Jin Boyang only had a level 2. Nathan had a level 4. Shoma only had a level 3. Vincent only had a level 3. And even the Olympic champion, just 1 second, where he only had a level 3. Mm-hmm. Oh. So, that says something there. Mm-hmm. Well, to me, back to Javi, and then I love that, Brian, after the NHK, when he had such a bad free program. And so Brian and I were talking on the phone, and it's like, you've got to do something. And so there were issues over, to me, the biggest thing I do, you got to change something. So why not, it's not like he wasn't prepared. So my thing was, well, the outfit to me looked cumbersome. So then the result is, when he went to Europeans, he had that lovely peasant style simple. So to me, it was it showed off his body more, and it let the program and the skating take over instead of the outfit. And to me, you have to change something. Like some kids that skaters that don't have success. Of course, the number one thing to do nowadays is change your coach, because there's the sense of loyalty to your coach is not as strong as it used to be in my day. When I skated, the last person my mother would have ever blamed was my coach. It was because I was lazy. I didn't work hard enough. I wasn't focused. Nowadays, the coach is the number one scapegoat. So
that's why you didn't take her call.
There you go. Anyway, so back to Javi, though. I just think that he also was the epitome of peaking. Mm-hmm. Like, he did his best program at 2 programs at the Olympics, and I attest that to the brilliance of Brian Orser and Tracy Wilson, being able to get him to peak at the Olympics.
Now, do you think Javi will continue at this point?
No, in my opinion, no.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be because what's for him to do? He wanted to get a medal. He didn't care what color. He got his medal. He has 2 world titles. He's 6 European titles. Why continue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and let's face it, you got the jumping beans again. You got to look at, you got to analyze what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, if I was Javi, I would be getting out because, I've seen Javi land a triple loop, and obviously, if he had to do a triple flip or a quad flip and a quad lutz, he probably could do it. Mm-hmm. But it's not like any more titles are going to really fatten his bank account.
Yeah, it's true. It's time to cash in, honey. It is.
Yeah, enjoy. Remember when Katarina Witt used to do her triple toe loop and it looked like she was doing a quad, like in Calgary and stuff like that? There's kind of a bit that element when Javi does jump his quads. Something about his quads in particular to me seems so much more substantial, even though it's probably the same quad toe that everyone else is doing. But for some reason, visually to me, his means so much more. It's like a more important jump. And I don't know if that's the body type. A lot of these like Hanyu, Nathan Chen, Vincent, they're very much like a leaner, less hippie kind of thing. Do you find that there's a difference in his quads, or am I just overly aesthetic right now?
I don't. I find when he does them, they're textbook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just picture perfect to me, even more so than any of the others.
Yeah,
well, his toe makes me very happy. If you haven't gotten the message throughout the last couple of months.
Yeah, like to me, there's a lightness about his quads that to me again, it's perfect timing, perfect liftoff, and my hand is like going against the ice here, and he has when he does them like this even this Sal that was a little swingy in his program, it still has a spring, or I don't want to say pop because that's a negative word in skating, but all of a sudden it just shoots up, and I think that is a wonderful quality to have.
Now, was his free his favorite of the frees that he has done? Because I am more leaning to his guys and dolls. At the end of the day, that is to me
my favorite too.
Yeah.
This is a close second, but that was my favorite. But to me, I think it showed again, Javi could do it, didn't have to do like everybody else this year and go back to an old program.
Mm-hmm.
He stuck with it, and, he's got the medal to prove that he did the right decision.
Well, talk about decisions. Let's talk about Vincent Zo. Very interesting, I think, skater. A lot of talent, a lot of under rotations, lots of injuries. Always kind of a wild card because he's got the jumps, he's got Tom Z pushing the content. You don't know exactly what to expect at times throughout the season. He can struggle with the short program, then do a brilliant free skate. But this competition, he really did 2 solid efforts here for him. Often with the under rotations for him, he can do the lutz and then the flip will be under rotated. You were speaking about patterns before. Is that his pattern on the jump? Because often he will get that little swoosh on the landing with the Salchow and the flip.
Yeah, he does a back 3 mohawk into his triple flip, and I think that to me it's like again, and I base my opinion on watching many videos and YouTube because I like to learn as a coach and look at what are the best jumps, how are they created, and for that pattern into it, it's like 1-2 turn, 1-2, and then you would do the mohawk. And to me, he comes out of the back 3 turn, and a lot of times it's not checked, as we say. So the arc is small on the second half of the 3 turn, so that when he steps the mohawk, his body's outside the circle, so it's a little bit like a dog chasing his tail.
Okay.
To me, he needs to be, but he's young and he's excited and he's trying to pull it, so I get it. But he's going to have to really slow down. Maybe he's not breathing going in, maybe, because he has to exhale before he goes into that jump. And I think that he has to be very conscious of his timing. So
I think for me, it looks like a simple fix that's not being fixed, in the tactical thing that you're talking about, these patterns, the thing,
right.
Because he can jump a quad toe. He can jump a quad lutz. It's something, he can get the rotation. So I think that there is hope for him, but I think it's an adjustment that needs to be made. Yeah.
Right. And it looks like he has 3 coaches, so I think maybe one of them should probably picks up on that or has their technique, because you see him with 3 coaches, and that's my only thing is, like, I wonder which one is the head coach.
I think they're all fighting for it. Look, when you have a coach that's pretending to coach you in California when you're training in Colorado, to me that says a lot. That this is a chaotic situation. I think we know that this is a chaotic situation. There's a lot going on there. What do we think about his skating skills? Will that hold him back? Because he's with Tom. Historically, Tom has not addressed this, especially in his male skaters. The program, there's such a focus on the jumps. He doesn't seem to work on the full package. Will that hold Vincent back at the top level?
I would have to say, obviously, yes. Because as he lands the jumps, then you start to look at other things. So it's, to me, what did I notice? Where his spins were so poor. When I went over the program a second time, I just was like, he really, 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 you can tell, has been a very jump focused, because even though he got, some level 4 spins, in fact, all of them were level 4. They were level 4, but he hit the positions, but the quality, they were all slow. All of them slow. And the highest he ever got on his spin, I've got his program sheet in front of me, was he got a 2 from the American judge Lori Parker.
Lori,
yeah.
Listen, Lori Parker is one of my favorites. She is the best, most fun lady you will ever meet in skating, and she knows where all of the bodies are buried. I think that's what we love most about her.
I can tell you Lori Parker, because I kind of look, when I go through as a coach, I go through the score sheets and I highlight things. But Lori Parker was the perfect American judge, because
amazing.
She gave Nathan, of course, the highest scores and the highest GOEs, and she gave and of course she supported Vincent with his highest 2, and when it came to Hanyu, she gave him, he got the lowest scores from her. So to me, she judged the event correctly. For her, like, to be an American judge, that's what you want you to do. You want, if there's a little bit of a gray area or wiggle room, if you can give a 2 instead of a 3, because, he got, Yuzu got 3s from every judge on the quad south, the quad toe, the step sequence, the and the choreographed sequence, except from Lori. She only gave 2s.
So what I like about Lori is, she's blonde, she's cute, she's likable, she's very smart, she plays off like she's not. And, I think what's so great is that I've been told that she's really responsible for Evan Lysacek's gold medal, because she just sat there in Vancouver during all the practices, all of the judging cocktails, and just, oh, isn't that nice to see a complete program? Oh, a clean skate with a complete program. And just, without saying it, she got it done.
Yeah, like I said, like, when I look at her protocol and know she's American, she did the right thing. Like,
define the right thing,
Oh, Jonathan, you're in opera, okay? Yeah. Come on, you should have gone to Bill Schumann, all right?
Transcends borders. I was like, everyone's going on and on about Nathan, and I was like, I think Shoma skates so beautifully.
This is why you can't be an American judge, Jonathan. You're going nowhere with this sentimental Midwestern crap, okay? God.
And it was interesting. Shoma had the same music, Turando, that Shizuka had, because I think he thought maybe it'll bring me good luck,
I thought Shoma's music was so flat this year. I think he's been so musical and wonderful in the past, and both
The
programs...
short, much more than the free, but...
Both
yeah.
programs were ring, ring, ring. Doug's mom is phoning it in. I just was not into either one. He's been so spectacular.
But look at Shoma. He's probably the best looking Asian ever. He's completely well dressed. He is, I always think he's got the best knees. He's the best skater after Patrick Chan. And he has guts. Look at that.
Like, given his stature, the skating is huge. Like, that's what I love. Yeah, I just like that big skating.
The program was better last year with that woman yelling.
Jonathan, it was better. But you have to know, you don't know what maybe his personal goals were or where they were trying to go, because obviously I think he will continue skating. So you have to think, what do we need to accomplish this year as a coach and a skater so that you can be better next year?
How many points back was he?
I'm not. Well, he had 202 in the free, and Yuzu only had 206, and of course Nathan had 215. So it's,
maybe that says that those 4 points with music and excitement and being a little bit bland and gray. We need to think about these things. You talk about us being nitpicky, but it matters,
I'm sure he'll come up with a great program next season, I'm sure.
I hope so. I don't want to hear the 4 seasons or Turandot from him anymore. I'm done with it.
In talking about Vincent, going back to what you were saying with like, okay, there are these under rotations, but you see the potential to fix that.
Totally.
So it's interesting, like how we're viewing potential. So Vincent clearly has that potential. So just to revisit the skating skills, obviously we know they need to improve. Do you see the skating skill potential there? Because, when Nathan seemingly was so jump-oriented for those few seasons, as outsiders we were perplexed because we knew he had the capacity to be more artistic, wasn't, and then started to be again. But, of course, it's not like Vincent was a very artistic skater that abandoned that in order to achieve these quads. Maybe he never quite had that. So I'm curious as a coach how you view the potential to be taught, because Carolina used to be such a mess.
Right.
Clearly it was in there. Yeah.
Okay, so with Vincent, you have somebody, he's 17. It's like he's going to have what I call that secondary male testosterone is going to kick in, and his shoulders are going to broaden. He's going to gain strength. So that's going to end all the cheats on the jumps. Repetition, to me, obviously he's doing some great things, and his coaches are telling him great things because he's getting the great jumps. So that's going to sort itself out. And I thought he showed, like, he had that big, huge, sweeping forward, outside to inside spread eagle, and that can really be developed into something quite grand, like a Paul Wiley. And I just think that he's young, and a guy in skating at 17 doing those tricks, the future. I mean, that's going to be Nathan's competition.
Can I say something really honest and a little bit controversial? I don't think it's going to happen for Vincent, and here's why. I think that he's got a situation where all of these coaches are fighting and thirsting to be the coach. I think none of the coaches have ever been the top, have had a top student at the top. Tammy has never put the full package together. Tom has clearly never listened and never put the full package together for a decade. Never addressed the skating skills in Max. Brendan Moreau's, Jeremy left. I think that you've got Drew Meekins, who's trying to climb his way to the top, so he's not going to take a stand against the mother. And I think that there's a reputation thing here.
Crawl's hanging around.
Christy Crawl's hanging around. There's a reputation, so people don't want to take him on. They've made phone calls to other coaches. So I think that this is it's a little bit of a bad situation until a real top coach can take charge of Nathan, take charge of Vincent. I think it's going to hold them back. My opinion. Well,
I'm pleading the fifth on this as an American citizen. I just don't think it's my place to call when I'm a coach. But all I know is that, somebody just needs to try to, run that ship or sail that ship. Mm-hmm. And I know that one leader is better than three.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. I mean, obviously, like, how many chefs do you need in that kitchen? And in skating now, like you're saying, it's so commonplace to call in a spin specialist or a jump specialist and all these different specialty kind of coaches. And when do you find it's really best to, like, just stay consistent with one coach so that actually a solid, consistent flow of technical information is coming in? Because I would think, even though if people are on the same page, it could also be very, unnerving to get too many different ideas.
Well, yeah, to me, if you're going to really be a team coach, then or team teach, then all three coaches or however many are on your team, you have to be communicating. Like, oh, I did this with his flip today, and this is what I think we need to do on his back camel spin. And so to me, it has to be communicated amongst the coaching team, and I don't know if that's done. I've never seen three high-level coaches like that, and they're well, Tom and Christy are together in the same rink, but Tammy's in another state, and I just don't know how much communication there is. So to me, take away the personalities, just say somebody with three coaches, to me, you need to have one.
And when the coaches shift in the kiss and cry, to me, it's always a sign that something is bad and something is weird.
You would notice that, Dave.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true though. Body language it's almost speaks louder than words.
Speaking
right?
body language, when Ghislaine was like patting Yuzu's back and rubbing his shoulders in the kiss and cry, I was like, Ghislaine, you make that money when he goes back to Japan. I was like, you do you. But let's move on to Adam Rippon, because he was quite the American star here during these Olympics. I think beyond anyone's wildest imagination. I was getting concerned because he did so many podcasts, Vox interviews, everything. I mean, he set himself up for a career, and you have to give him credit because he delivered at the end of the day. He did what he needed to do here. So.
Right. The Olympics aren't even over, and I saw today he's now the new NBC correspondent for the games. So, and he's got people like, Sally Field wanting her son to date him. So, not to mention Reese Witherspoon calling in. But I think Adam was so focused on making the Olympics. And in the last, like, I knew him when he took from Brian Orser. And that would be way back when he first took from him in 2009. He had
curly hair.
Right, because I was working with Elliot Halverson then, and Elliot and Adam were great friends. And So I got to know Adam at the national championships in Cleveland that year. And that's when he just switched over to Brian. And then I ended up moving back to Toronto. And then, during a transitional time before he went to Yukon Jason, I worked with him for 3 weeks. But regardless of that, the point I'm trying to make is that I got to know him going into the Craig Club to see Brian and to see his skaters. And Adam, even then, you could tell that this boy, he might not be quad jumping, but he is totally driven. And look at, like, how do you do 3 great programs like he did at the Olympics with all the distractions? All the distractions. Yeah. So he really made people that, that get distracted, like, because a lot of skaters do. Like, I heard with Megan Duhamel, she always likes to know what people do because it helps her. But she didn't let the distraction of not hearing how the Germans had skated. But when she went through the tunnel, she said she saw on the screen it was all green. So she knew that they skated well. But at the same time, she was smart enough to know her goals of going for bronze were still realistic because she wasn't going for gold. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was brilliant. Mm-hmm. She was completely a focused skater. Didn't let the distractions bother her, which brings me back to Adam. And obviously, he knew when he went on that ice, he had a mission. And like how he saved some of those triple axels, especially the one in the short, was like, oh my God, he must have gone. He must have been part cat. Like, that was determination. That was mind over matter. That was sheer guts. Like how again, and from a coaching point of view. that's not technique. That is totally the will to win and the will to be successful.
I think over the last 4 years, the biggest thing with Adam is that, the triple axel was his worst jump, and he took ownership of it. And you see him whenever he posts on social media, it's always the triple axel. He's always doing it again and again and again and again and making that his thing. I think that you're right. It's mind over matter for that.
Right. And even the one in the long with the triple axel double toe and then the funny loop, like normally he should have landed on his right ear on that double loop, but because he completely missed the toe. I mean, it really was only a single, and he did get a double, like a downgrade on it, 2 arrows. But my point is that he again saved it. He saved it, So he comes out, he only got 1 -3. He had on all the rest -2s, but he still came out with 9.33 points. So. And he was the best spinner. Adam was the best spinner in the event. Yeah. Brian Orser, please don't kill me for saying that, but he was. He was the fastest and the best positions. Mm-hmm. So again, for all those people, the Lucinda Roos of the world, we're recognizing that he was the best spinner. He had the best positions. He always accentuated the music, whether it be a simple arm gesture, hand gesture. He had the best little features besides, contorting himself to do all those levels.
So do you want to know a little statistic that'll just blow your mind a little bit?
What?
Unikem was the top skater on Instagram, I believe. Maybe one of the Russians is different, but of his contemporaries. Unikem had 464,000 Instagram followers. Adam Pastor is at 469 as of today. And it's interesting to see it just climb and climb and climb. I think we're going to see him on TV.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be on Ellen. He'll be on Saturday Night Live. He'll be everywhere. Yeah. He'll be hosting something. He's going to be, on The Voice. Who knows?
So so I can just bite my tongue about that whole situation. Can we talk about that Raph approach to those triple axles sometimes? He and Ashley also, there seemed to be such a huge lean going into the jump. Is that something you notice? Is that something you think they're trying to do in order to write something?
Well, I notice, yes, I notice that very much, to answer your question, and I support it. With especially Adam, because he, like a lot of kids, anticipates the step forward, which to me, on a single, double, triple axle, soon to be quad axle, it's this going from backward to forward. That's the issue. And on a triple axle or double, whatever, you have to lean back in the circle because you need to feel like your right foot, to me, is in like the starting blocks of the 100-meter dash at the Olympics. You have to feel security there. So you have to keep your right foot, the arch of your foot, hugging the sole of your skate because it's a lateral movement. Like in skating, our skates go forward like this. So on an axle, it's the back outside and you roll to push off the inside edge to go on the left foot. And Adam, to me, always kind of spread eagled it before. So now he's leaning back, so he has to kind of go through that like a timber or like a tree getting cut down to get on that forward outside edge to lead with his left side, and he does it. So to me, he had to do that exaggeration in order to create the jump.
I think it works for him. I never think it worked for Ashley, but Ashley struggled with the double axel even as a junior and as an early senior. She always would get under rotations even on simple double axles. It was not a natural jump for her. Yeah.
So you're saying for Ashley to do a good double axel?
Yeah, Ashley's double axel has been one of those things.
Because she would try that same lean Adam would, but it seemed to help Adam, but maybe never really helped Ashley. But
I don't know Ashley well enough to say that. Like, I don't know what was going on in her head, but I know Adam would be desperate to learn the triple axel. So if you told him to stick his finger in his ear and it would help, he would do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. That's why I think, as a coach, you're kind of always like a used car salesman. You got to get your pupils to buy into your technique. Mm-hmm. And I think that in Raph's case with Adam, he told him exactly what he needed to do, get that smaller arc so he could push out of the circle harder. And if you look at all of Brian Orser's pupils, they all do like a step, and it's always a small back outside arc before their triple axels. All three of his boys, including June, the Korean, and it's not like a big sweeping back outside edge like Brian did back in '88 with his free leg extension. No, it's like you want to conserve energy, so you don't want to extend that free leg anymore. You want to be up in your skating knee with your free foot close, so that now you're already up in your knee. Now you have somewhere to push from. So now you get the full range of motion of the push. Whereas when you're up and down, you don't get much push, and usually people roll up to the toe. And how much of the toe is touching the ice when you need to have the whole blade,
Right.
or at least 3 or 4 inches of the blade. So anyway, I'm getting a little bit off on a tangent, but my point is that I actually probably did a few good ones and thought it was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Adam knew he had to have the triple axel. You know?
Now, what's Nathan's triple axel issue that you see? Because that is the one, I think, where we all white knuckle it. When Nathan's going into the triple axel, it's like a Patrick Chan moment where I think everyone is praying in tongues.
Yeah, but look at the beautiful one he did in the long program. Yeah. And it was kind of like, to me, I was trying to watch where the boards were and according to the pattern he was skating. And the boards were coming, he was going towards the board, so he had to crank the back outside edge. It had to come around a bit. So to me, he got that beautiful push from the right foot to the left foot, which resulted in, like, that was the best axel I've ever seen him do.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I've watched him, that it's really until this year, and I went to, because I was at the U.S. National Championships with one of my skaters, and I watched some of the senior men's practices, and that definitely was a challenging jump for him. Mm-hmm. And if he did do it, it was like, phew, because it didn't look very secure. That axel he did in the long program, he needs to remember that when he did and watch that video. And that's what I would do as his coach, sit down with him and, like, let's look what you did here to create that jump.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, speaking of triple axels, and let's talk about Patrick Chan.
Well, I've seen Patrick since he was 7 because I knew back in those days I taught at the cricket club, and when Patrick came in with Osborne Colson as coach at the time, who basically developed him, he taught Patrick always learned different jump entries into all the jumps. Mm-hmm. So that's where all that edging and turning was all started with Osborne Colson. Mm-hmm. So but it did take Patrick a long time to get his double axel, a long time. And I'd have to say it was probably, when I think back, as I'm looking up, I'm trying to remember, it was on a too big an arc. Mm. The back edge was on too big an arc. He was a little guy, and he was skating, it should be proportioned to your size and your lean, and your weight. And his arc was too big, and I think that he tried very, very, very unsuccessfully to do that double axel, and I think that would probably be the reason why he has trouble today, because he needed to get a better foundation on a double axel that would have carried him to the triple axel. So, and then to me, the coach changing, I'm not I'm not a fan of that, because he would get, obviously everybody would change it, and then I even saw it changed again, and really he only did 1 out of 5. Mm-hmm. He missed it in the short. He missed, I think, both in the long of the team, mm-hmm. and then he did one with the triple axel half loop triple Salchow, which was smart because he was already kind of a little bit outside the circle, so we did the half loop triple Sal, and then the second one, he stepped out of that one. Yeah.
Do you notice on his quad combos, when Yuzu or Javi do them, it looks like one fluid motion, from the beginning of the entrance of the pattern to the end of the jump, looks like they have run and practiced that combination so that it is one fluid motion. When Patrick does it, it sometimes looks like and it's more so in the last couple of years, that he does the quad toe, lands it, then it's like, oh, I landed it, I should tack on a triple toe or a double toe, instead of practicing that one fluid motion with the repetition again and again and again.
Right. Well, to me, and I know what Brian teaches from from my own experience of being with him and working with Brian as a skater myself for 11 years, that when you land the first, your free leg has to go forward because your momentum is going, behind you, and you've got to counterbalance when you land. So your hips go back, so your free leg has to counterbalance by going forward. So your free foot goes forward, and it swings in a half a circle, okay, behind you, mind you, and your head has to stay still. You cannot move your head. So you let your free leg unwind and then wind up for the triple toe. And I think that's where most skaters fail, is because they don't let themselves take enough time in between the two jumps. So does that help?
Yeah, I would say because he shifts position sometimes in between his combination.
Right. So it's the left foot going forward and the right arm going back. Okay, in opposition. Your left foot and your left arm stays in front, and the free leg comes around all by itself. Okay, so that way the edge is running. So again, you think of the principles of flight. That's your runway for the airplane to take off. And therefore, it's like you're not trying, like most kids try and do a combination, and if I'm going to use the runway or the principles of flight there, is they try to think of the takeoff like a helicopter pad, and they need a runway. You need some length to do the second jump, and to deal with that momentum coming out of the first, and then to create the force for the second jump. So to me, if you look at those people that do the great combinations, there's a runway in between the jumps.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now, Patrick, as far as what happened this season, was it a surprise to you? I mean, we were kind of guessing about so many of these top men, what was going to happen until the last moment. It seems like Patrick's career ended with a lot of drama. As a Canadian, what has happened?
Well, I think his goal was to get an Olympic gold medal, and I think he accomplished that.
Okay.
And to think, I really honestly think he had a very slim chance of getting a bronze medal, because that probably kept him going, even though he left the quad sow out at the end. I think he thought if he's ever skated a clean short and a clean long, he could squeak in there. And, we at this stage of his career, I'm sure hope was a big part of it. And I think that the realism of the gold medal in the team event, at the end of the day, he could put that gold medal under his pillow and think at 26 or 7 years of age, I did it.
Okay.
Right. A team event or not. I think it's very important that I really think that he really wanted to stay in to get that gold medal. And I don't think that, and again, with the slim chance of getting a bronze.
Now, when you look at Jin Boyang, he's got the beautiful air position. He can do great jumps. Is the lack of the clean program glaring to you as a coach?
There was no transitions in his program, none whatsoever. I watched that program, he had zero. And of course, again, Laurie Parker marked him correctly and gave him a 7.5, when of course the Chinese judge gave him a 9.25.
Can we give claps for Laurie Parker? Okay, it is. You're an American now, Doug, and you need to know that she is amazing. Okay.
Right. So, and then the Chinese judge gave him 3s on every element except his flying camel spin, which he gave a 2 on, and other people were giving him 0s and 1s. And he also, and of course, he fell on the quad toe, so everybody had to give him -3s on that. And he got a +2 on the quad toe, double toe, and nobody else only gave him 0s and 1s. And of course, he got the highest component scores by far. It was like people were in the 7s, like Laurie Parker, and judge number 4, who was the Japanese judge. They all were in the 7s, and of course, the Chinese judge was 9.25 for transitions and 9.50 for everything else.
When he won the 4 continents, were you as confused as the rest of us? I mean, I was choking with that when I saw some of those component marks that we saw at 4 continents. I just think that this program, the free skate in particular, is just... I think Laurie is a very skilled...
He did a great job in the short of masking some things that inevitably it's too difficult to mask in the free.
Right. Well, he had that one little brilliant section with that, I called it the comic relief, where he was playing around.
Star Wars cantina music. Oh my gosh! Like, holy cow!
But you never know. Like, we all know Laurie Nichols, obviously one of the best in the business. She's brilliant, but we never know how much like gets taken out when you get home and get it trained. And so I don't know that, but I just know that compared to the other boys, I looked at the transitions the other boys had, especially like Yuzu and Javi and Shomo, and it was incredible the transitions they had into the jump compared to Jin.
And I think unless he moves to Laurie, you can put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. You know, you have to work at this every single day. You know, I think that you have to really train it, you know, and really be committed to improving your artistic sense.
Well, I think it's that question of where see the potential because Boyanjin he's gotten much better, you know, from when he first was on the scene. I mean, it's all relative, but can it ever be developed into something that's...
I think so, especially if he keeps working with Laurie. I mean, his posture to me this year was unbelievably improved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? I noticed that, and then in his jump technique, he's like Elvis Stoichkol. He pulls his head back as he takes off, so that his so he has, you know, an axis more defined, vertical axis in his body. Keeps pulling it back.
There's all those funny things on like BuzzFeed or wherever where they show an isolated skater like in a jump moment and all the funny facial expressions.
Right.
And Boyanjin is consistently one of the funniest. Even in the slow-mo for like the NBC coverage, like some of the facial expressions and head tilts were almost comical. Yeah.
Right. And then he was one of the only skaters that got a level 2 in the footwork. Everybody else got 3s and 4s.
Yeah.
So that was interesting too. So he, you know, and I tried to go back and look, you know, so for sure I looked at, you know, his left foot cluster was, you know, I mean, obviously they were really calling the footwork because there weren't very many 4s. So that means that the technical panel was not being gray. They were being obviously very black and white.
So now let us know, will Steven Gogolev be eligible for the next Olympics? At what point does he become a factor?
Well, he'll be on the Junior Grand Prix circuit this year because he turned 13 the 22nd of December.
Okay.
So we'll see him out there, and I'm sure Brian will have, and Tracy and David Wilson will have him ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, do you think, how many calls do you think Brian will start to get, and who is handling that phone conversation?
I'm sure his phone's already started ringing off the wall.
Yes.
In fact, I know of a few people that have already called him before the Olympics. So we'll wait and see. But he's a very smart coach in many ways, and one of them is he doesn't take on more than he can handle. And because he likes, when you see him dancing around at the end of the ring, it's because he knows everybody's program. He knows every step in everybody's program, and as you can see, he skates it with them. So I think that for him, 4 to 6 is about his max. So I guess it depends on who retires, and then him and Tracy will sit down and see who is. They'll take the pick of the litter, obviously.
Good for them.
You know, and figure out. And it's not always. I know other great skaters have called them in the past that they have refused, and it's because they think that they're maxed out. And he's never made a mistake yet. You know, because I've seen the skaters that he turned down, they never amounted to anything.
Right.
With other coaches.
Yeah.
And that's not to slam the other coaches. I'm just saying that they peaked. He recognized that they maxed out.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. There are a lot of there's a lot going on. There's shifting already happening within the U.S. with coaching with top skaters. I think it's all happening now. It'll be fun.
Well, especially this being the end of a quadrennial, right? So this is the end of the Olympic cycle. This is the end of the 4 years. Now it's a whole new quadrennial. And what I think it'll be really interesting to see how Russia deals with it, because so far they're not doing too well at the Olympic Games. Whereas they're, to me, when you look at the past, Russians always peak at Olympics.
Right.
So they'll obviously have two fabulous girls for them, and then their dance team has only a slim chance.
Well, there is buzz going on, and people were mad that I tweeted about it, but we've heard from a number of people, and then we checked even with Russian sources, and they are very angry that Tarasova and Morozov did not medal, and because especially they have a real hatred for Duhamel and Radford. So, and the Russian officials are not shy at some skating events of voicing their opinions, and dance seems to be...
I don't care who you hate. It's like you can't take anything away from Megan and Eric, and I'm not saying that because I'm Canadian. I'm saying that because that was cut and dry. As I even tell you that Ray Charles could see that Megan and Eric were no comparison to Tarasova. There is no way.
When you saw Candyman...
For them to put that program out, and I'll go on record as saying that, for them to put that long program out, it's like after that brilliant, typically Russian short, I just don't get, like, how many people approve that for that to go into competition?
Right.
A lot. Yeah.
Well, through the season, though, as we were discussing with Megan in the recap, the judges never told them they had to. But through the scores, they were still getting rewarded enough that they could feel confused, even though it seemed so obvious from the outside that it was such a mismatch. But alas. Now, the Russian whose programs I love are Dmitry Aliev's.
Our program was a very special program.
Yeah.
I think he was completely packaged perfectly, although when he came out in the long, he looked pale. He had a wrong outfit with no collar. He should have had a collar on. He like the other one, he looked like mature and he looked like a player. This one, he looked junior again.
Yeah.
Just think like, oh my God. And then of course, unfortunately, I also think his long went away because he must have been shell shocked after, his fantastic short. Like, how is he ever going to keep up with a great long after doing that amazing short and being in the last flight? Your first Olympics, your first big stage, and there you are in the last group. Like,
right.
So bless his little heart.
It was interesting at Europeans because he really did rise to the occasion in the free skate, I thought. And it was a nice thing that he was able to do those two contrasting styles. But of course, I much prefer the style of the short program. Now, on the NBC broadcast, which of course, is not my total favorite, they were like, oh, it looks like the nerves got to him and all this sort of stuff. But really on the first spill he took, I almost wondered if he was going to stop because he really landed on the side and he was like, he clutched his ribs and you saw that like brief moment of like, what do I do now? And he looked, it took a while for him to physically kind of get back on his game. So I was like, maybe the nerves had affected that initial fall. But to me, it really seemed like recovering from that fall physically was sending him out of whack.
Well, he didn't recover from the fall because then he fell on the triple axel after it.
Right.
So then he had a spin, and then he had the choreographed sequence, and then he got the jumping bean back because then he did the rest of the program well, including another triple axel. So to me, he, it just took him a while. I just think it was inexperience.
Okay, because to me it almost looked like...
I would put my money on him more than Kalida.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. Well, we had a Russian on, Doug. Get it together. It's Kolyada.
Kolyada, yes.
Kolyada. The other thing is that I read somewhere today that Tarasova she kind of put down his coaching situation, or that they need help.
Well, so he'll be switching. Is that what that means? And if she had it her way, it would be Dubyanova. That's what that would mean.
And, isn't this interesting? When Dave and I did the Russian recap, we had a Russian soprano on who was talking to us about the politics, and it was really exciting for this coaching team that had Kolyada because they were finally getting the credit that they had long been owed. And, of course, now it seems to be erasing itself. And it's interesting because when he did that quad lutz that one time on the Grand Prix circuit, it was so beautiful. So then it's so interesting to me. His jumps are very important, right? When they're landed, they are important jumps. Mikhail.
Now we're back to Kolyada.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so he had the great skate in Boston Worlds where he was clean short, clean long. Okay, he's the newly crowned Plushenko of Russia. And then, of course, like everybody else, they have to go deal with, growth, success, expectations, pressure. I can imagine the pressure of any Russian skater. Oh my God! Like, I think it's greater, greater than almost the pressure that Nathan had on him.
Yeah.
But poor Nathan. I mean, he couldn't walk anywhere without seeing his face anywhere at the Olympics, and
right.
Anyway.
I don't feel that bad when you also think that his competitor is Hanyu, who has all of the pressure. Not that I don't feel bad for Nathan, but his competitor also had a lot of pressure too. I think that there's a lot.
He was not. He didn't skate train in his country. He trained in Canada, and you can't go. And you cannot go into the cricket club walking off the street. It's a private club, so he's protected there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe Nathan will soon be going to the cricket club too. That's just my my situation. I think that maybe Nathan could go. We could leave the family at home, and we could have a moment of growth. That's what I think. Tracy Wilson could suggest this in her very lovely Canadian way, and she could say, "Oh, Mrs. Chen, I think Nathan needs to be a grown-up boy," and that we could solve all of these problems. So, just my opinion.
That remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen. Oh, man. So, Doug, in your predictions, which lady will do it in the Russians? Will it be Alina Zagitova or Yevgenia Medvedeva? Which one will take the gold in the ladies?
Zagitova, because she's got the best long.
Yes.
She has the best long. She's got
excuse me, Doug. She has the most competitive long.
Yeah, in both, to me, Medvedeva and her little pantomime. You can't beat Don Quixote and that charming little girl. You can't beat it. Even though I do believe a lady always out trumps a girl, but this little girl is dressed up like on her own planet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Happens to be ours.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to me, the more intriguing question is, have you had thoughts about who might squeeze in that bronze?
Well, obviously, I definitely would like to be a Canadian girl, and I'm not saying it again because of nationality. I just think there's two Canadian ladies who are women, and they have women bodies, and they have they're just all the qualities of an Olympic champion. And I
Except the mind for Osmond.
Well, let's hope that turns around and comes together for her. I couldn't wish, because I just love watching her skate.
I think she's got the best short in the competition, as good as Carolina's. And Sotoko's, Jonathan.
Yeah, I was like, come on, Sotoko. Okay.
And I think Gabby has, there's nobody like her, speed like her. So, and I like it that a woman can outmatch or outskate most of the men, and she sure can.
Yeah.
Is she the Megan Duhamel of the singles event?
I plead the fifth on that.
She is one tough cookie. I think we're all looking forward. What do you think from Mirai, at this point?
I think Mirai's in a very good place. She's going to be riding the triple axel wave, and I think she'll skate amazing.
Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts on her triple axel? She did that huge setup, almost ran into the boards, right, in that setup in the team event, but really righted herself and was able to do that. It seems like it gets in competition even more and more reliable. From a technical standpoint, do you find that she's in a good position for that?
Well, I remember seeing her land that triple axel back in Toronto probably 5 years ago. So to me, she's had this, and it's not like this happened overnight and she got a new trick and yay, I'm going to put it in my program. She's been doing this for a long time, and I just think that, and in practice, you saw her do a lot of them. You just never saw her land it like that in competition, and the law of averages said she was going to land it, and it just was perfect for her to land it in the Olympics. So, but I also think from 38 years of coaching, now she's in the best place in her head that she's probably ever been since she probably won U.S. Nationals. But because that was 10 years ago and she was a little girl then, and now she's a woman, I just think that it's going to set her up for a great program. So I'm thinking she's going to be Adam Rippon in the competition, in the ladies event too.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I cannot wait. I hope that Carolina gets it together too to make this really interesting. But it's.
I'm just sorry, Lori Parker's not judging the event.
Oh, no, Lori Parker. Lori Parker has been such a star. I think that we need to give her all of the prop. I think she really. I know we make jokes. I think she is a very typically accurate judge. Even at the U.S. Nationals, she seems to be one of the only judges who's grounded in reality. I mean, she will throw the real marks to these skaters at the U.S. Nationals when everyone else is full of huff and puff and bluster and hot air.
Well, again, I know from just my own experience, again, having Elliot Halverson when he was a junior Grand Prix skater, she would follow up with everything and be there to support him if he was experienced injury. She would send an email. She was the real person that you could count on, as you call it, like your athletic supporter. She really is.
So an interesting note about Lori Parker. I knew that her mom was a judge. As well on the world level, judged the '94 Olympics, I believe, when Tanya was skating. She also had her grandparents, I believe, were in the sport as well as high-level skaters, and her cousins are the Grahams, the Graham who was Paul Wiley's pair partner, as well as
a world judge.
And she trained with both Carlo and John Nick. So if anyone knows about technique and politics, it is Lori Parker. She knows where to put the people, where to put them appropriately.
Yeah.
Sure. And again, she's just a great lady.
Yeah.
Nationals again, just her intensity of watching an event, you can tell she's completely engaged in skating. Mm-hmm. And she loves it. She's passionate, as most judges are. They're volunteering their time. And I have to say that in the United States, there's a lot of great judges. I looked at the judges on this, this list to see where they all came from, and 4 of them were from old Russia.
Mm-hmm. Many still live in Russia, by the way. So
yeah. Oh yeah, and they all ended up going to school in Moscow at some point, or when I looked, I checked their bios on Google, and then it was interesting to see, which judges, there's always somebody that is always the high marker, and the first judge, the Kazakhstan judge Yuri Kazgov, he was giving out threes to everybody like it was Christmas. So it was just
he was in a really good mood. Yeah, he was just happy to be there.
You could tell he was happy to be there, and he wanted to all the judges and all the coaches, all the coaches to say, "Oh, look at you got this from this judge. Oh, you got a three, because he had the highest marks. When I looked through here, he was pretty well the highest marker for every skater. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so
he was the anti-Vanessa Riley.
Have you ever met Vanessa Riley, our other favorite judge?
Yes, she was the British judge and she judged figures. At the last figure championship in Halifax, and she wept uncontrollably, holding her marks up because she knew it was the end of figures. When the Yugoslavian girl skated the last figure, and people were throwing.
That's how long ago that was. That there was someone from Yugoslavia.
Yeah, 1990. 1990 or 91, 90 in Halifax, I remember. And she was a terrific judge because she would be, everybody else could have been 5'8" and 5'7". She could be 5'6", but she could tell you why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she was probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because she saw something. There's been a few over the years. In Canada, we had a famous judge, Dr. Suzanne Francis, and she was Suzanne Morrow in third in the Olympics in pairs in 1948. And she was a Canadian ladies champion and a pair champion. And she was a terrific judge back in the 60s and 70s. And she used to wear a red coat, and they used to be all feared of the Canadian lady in red.
Okay.
So, but she was a Vanessa Riley of her era.
Okay. Jonathan and I need to get on the judging panel.
There you go. I think you've got enough training.
Okay. I'll find my red coat.
Yeah, we'll wear red coats. We'll be very friendly with the Russians. We know what to do.
Yeah. You want those big gifts. Apparently the Russians give those fabulous gifts,
Yes.
I'll take them. I'm for sale.
Well, Tarasova always said that the Canadian judge never learned how to cooperate. That was their problem over the years with Borden Kratz. They just never knew how to get along. So
Mum zip.
Well, Doug, we've so enjoyed having you on the skating lesson. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. It was great. We'll see you guys and enjoy the rest of the competition. I sure will.
Yeah.
You do the same, yeah.
So hold the edge and look sexy every day.
Okay, you're gonna jump. Don't jump too high. Jump across the ice. The foot's gonna be in front. Here. And there. Here. And there. Can we do that? Circle, Emma, in here. There we go, circle. Good. Okay, now stop. Now, we're going to be all looking at each other when we're on this, when we get onto our back edge. Okay? Now, my arms are going to march through. They're not going to go around. I march through, I keep looking towards all my little friends here, and then I'm going to turn my head forward. Okay? Is that cool? So now we're going to make it a big circle and we're going to skate. Now, look at each other. Okay? Now once you march the arms through, stay there. Now turn your head over. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Keep your hips are level. Okay, one more time. Arms through. And then stay there. Should be super comfortable. That's good. Punch it back. Okay, come on in. Okay, so now we're just going to do the top and we're going to do this little circle here. We're going to do the top. So we're going to draw on this page. Push it to something. Okay? So I'm going along here. I have to up there. Just speed up here. And I'm just going to do nothing and just tap. Okay? I need to create something and then accelerate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in a circle. We have to jump at the same time. Okay? So we're going to go all the way through all this stuff. And go. Push up to the circle. That's it. Tap. Yeah, but I don't want you guys to do the tap here. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go here. Yeah. So now go right ahead and go. That's one and push up. That's it. So it's like a little starburst. We're going around the circle and then we go. Okay, go. Just that line. Head. Arm through. Head. Go. Up. And watch. Arm. Head. Go. whatever you want. I think accent. Everybody kind of wants to do accent, right? Double, triple, whatever. Yeah. I'm going to do combos. No combos. So definitely combos. Yeah. Good.
There's a wow in the edge. There's a wow in the edge on the land, subcurve.
It's like a little Marilyn Monroe figure.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on which way you go.
No falling. So, group one.
How do we want to split? Are we all playing at the same level?
Anybody a junior or senior?
A lot more split than this. Stand. Okay? Try not to do little loop jumps and don't turn. Forward. That right side is going to come around. Okay? He's got to figure out. Good idea. There. That was really good. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do just this little we'll use it for total, so it's always going to be one more time. Two. So we're going to start with a little wall jump. We're going to do a couple of flips, 2 or 3 flips. We'll just do a little flip. I'll fit up. And then do a wall jump and land my foot behind. That's the first one. And here I go behind, flick. So
really, a loop jump is your 3 foot behind.
And so straight back shooting. And just to cut to the chase, so I'm going to tell you guys something later, so I'll tell you next. Do the flicks from the middle of your blade. Okay? The middle and a little bit further back right now. Toes are going to want to come up. Just do it.
Just like a toe.
So you go here, flick. The last one you have to put in front. So you guys. Okay, spread